The moment Linda grabbed the microphone, I should have known my perfect day was about to shatter. But there I sat, radiant in my white dress, my new husband Craig's hand warm in mine, believing this was finally my moment of triumph. I'm Martina, and this is the story of how my stepmother turned my wedding reception into ground zero for the biggest family explosion of my life. Just moments before, everything had been exactly as I'd dreamed. The fairy lights twinkled across the garden venue, my carefully crafted menu was receiving endless compliments, and even my usually stoic father had tears in his eyes during our dance. "The salmon is divine," Linda announced, standing up and tapping her glass with a silver spoon. Almost as impressive as the fact that my stepdaughter managed to pull off this wedding while her catering business is facing bankruptcy. The crystal champagne flute slipped from my fingers, shattering against the table. Craig's grip tightened on my hand as whispers rippled through the crowd. "Linda, sit down," my father Edison warned, his voice sharp. She smiled that perfect real estate agent smile of hers. "Oh, come now. Everyone should know what they're getting into. Craig's family especially deserves to know that their new daughter-in-law is drowning in debt." "That's enough." Craig stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is our wedding day." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Around me, 200 guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes either fixed on their plates or openly staring at me with pity. "Did you tell them about the missed payments, dear?" Linda continued, her voice dripping with false concern. "Or how you begged the bank for an extension last week?" My best friend Krista appeared beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "Don't listen to her, Martina. She's just trying to hurt you." But the damage was done. I could see Craig's father Paul whispering to his wife, their faces drawn with concern. The caterers I'd hired, colleagues from my early days in the industry, were exchanging glances. My reputation, both personal and professional, was unraveling with each word Linda spoke. "I'm only looking out for everyone's best interests," Linda said, spreading her hands. "It would be irresponsible not to—" "Stop it, Mom!" My stepsister Alyssa's quiet voice cut through the chaos. She stood up slowly, her hands shaking. "Just stop." Linda's perfect smile faltered for just a moment. "Darling, sit down. This doesn't concern you." "I think it does," Alyssa replied, her voice stronger now. She turned to face me, her eyes full of apology. "Martina, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner." "Alyssa," Linda warned, but something had changed in her voice. Was that fear? I found my voice at last, pushing back my chair. "Told me what?" The silence that followed felt endless. Linda's face had lost its triumphant glow, replaced by something I'd never seen before. Panic. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," my father suggested, standing up. "No," I said, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. "No more secrets, no more private discussions where Linda gets to control the narrative." "What were you going to tell me, Alyssa?" My quiet stepsister looked directly at Linda, then back at me. "The truth about where the family money has really been going these past 6 months." Linda lunged for the microphone, but Alyssa was faster. In that moment, watching my stepmother's perfectly manicured hands grasping at air, I realized everything was about to change. "Don't you dare," Linda hissed, but her usual authority had crumbled. "I've seen the bank statements," Alyssa continued, her voice trembling but clear. "I've seen the withdrawals, the casino receipts, the hidden credit cards." The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. My father's face went pale. "Edison," Linda turned to him, her voice honeyed again. "Don't listen to these ridiculous accusations. I would never—" "Show him the proof, Alyssa," I heard myself say, standing straighter. "Show everyone exactly who's been lying about money problems." Linda's eyes met mine, and for the first time in 15 years, I didn't shrink under her gaze. Instead, I watched as her carefully constructed world began to crumble, just as she had tried to destroy mine. "This wedding is over," Linda announced, grabbing her purse. But as she turned to leave, I saw what she didn't. Not a single person stood to follow her, not even my father. Craig pulled me close, his arms steady around me. "Are you okay?" I wasn't, not even close. But as I looked around at the faces of our guests, no longer pitying but shocked and supportive, I felt something shift inside me. The need for Linda's approval, the constant fear of her judgment, began to fade. No, I answered honestly, squeezing his hand. But I think I'm about to be. 3 months before my wedding, I stood in Linda's pristine kitchen, clutching a folder of business projections while she sipped her morning coffee. That day marked my 100th attempt to earn her approval, and my 100th failure. Honestly, Martina, I don't understand why you insist on this catering venture, she said, barely glancing at my carefully prepared documents. Your father and I could set you up with a real career in real estate. My business is real, I replied, fighting to keep my voice steady. We've catered 3 major corporate events this month alone. She raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. And yet, here you are, asking for advice about a business loan. I'm not asking for money, I clarified quickly. I just wanted your opinion on the expansion plan. Since you've built your own business. Let me stop you right there. Linda set down her coffee cup with a sharp clink. Your little cooking hobby isn't comparable to what I've built. Do you know how many properties I sold last year? Before I could answer, my father walked in, his tie slightly crooked. Morning, sweetheart, he said, kissing my cheek. What's all this? Just trying to talk some sense into your daughter, Linda sighed. She's still pursuing this catering fantasy. Dad picked up one of my spreadsheets. These numbers look impressive, Martina. Is this all from the hospital contract? Yes, and we have 2 more corporate clients lined up, I said, grateful for his interest. That's why I'm considering the loan, to expand our kitchen space. Linda's laugh cut through the air. Edison, please. She's getting married in 3 months. Shouldn't she be focusing on starting a family instead of playing restaurant? I can do both, I insisted, but my voice sounded small even to my own ears. The way you did both when you burned those appetizers at the Thompson wedding? Linda's words struck like precise arrows. What was it they called them? Charcoal squares? That was 2 years ago, I protested. We've grown since then. Have you? She stood, smoothing her silk blouse. Because I heard the Harrison corporate lunch last week was served late. 20 minutes late, to be exact. My stomach dropped. How did you— I have connections, dear. I hear things. She touched my father's arm. Edison, we should get going. That showing won't wait. Dad hesitated, looking between us. Maybe we could discuss this more over dinner. Nothing to discuss, Linda said firmly. Martina knows I'm right, don't you, dear? I gathered my papers with trembling hands, decades of similar conversations echoing in my head. The time she'd called my college choice pedestrian. The day she'd described my first apartment as quaint, with that same dismissive smile. Actually, I said, straightening my spine, I've already applied for the loan. Linda froze. You what? I applied last week. The bank's reviewing it now. Without consulting us? She turned to my father. Edison, did you hear this? Dad looked uncomfortable. She's an adult, Linda. If she believes in her business— Oh, please. Linda's voice turned sharp. When this fails, and it will fail, don't come crying to us. We won't bail you out. I won't need bailing out, I said, but my confidence was wavering. Right. She smiled that real estate smile again. Just like you didn't need help after the Thompson disaster, or after your first location flooded. Face it, Martina, you're not cut out for this. Linda, my father warned, but she continued. I'm being kind. Someone needs to be honest with her. This business will bankrupt you, and then what? You'll drag Craig down with you? Shame his family? I walked out of her kitchen that day with my folder clutched to my chest, her words following me like persistent shadows. But something else followed me too, a quiet determination I hadn't felt before. That evening, Krista found me in my small commercial kitchen, aggressively kneading bread dough. Rough day? She asked, hopping onto a clean counter. Linda, I said, punching the dough harder than necessary. Ah. She watched me work for a moment. You know she's wrong about you, right? I stopped kneading. Is she? The loan officer looked pretty skeptical today. Hey! Krista jumped down and grabbed my flour-covered hands. Remember when we catered that wedding in the middle of that freak storm? Everyone said we should cancel, but you found a way. You always find a way. That was different. No, it wasn't. You're good at this, Martina. Really good. Don't let her make you doubt that. I looked around my small kitchen, the gleaming equipment, the organized shelves, the wall of happy client testimonials. Everything I'd built, despite Linda's constant predictions of failure. You're right, I said finally. I wish she could see it too. Maybe she does, Krista suggested. Maybe that's exactly what scares her. I didn't know then how right Krista was, or how Linda's fear would eventually expose itself at my wedding. I just knew that for the first time, I was done trying to earn her approval. Back at my wedding reception, the silence following Alyssa's revelation felt like a physical weight. Linda stood frozen, her perfectly maintained facade cracking at the edges. My father's face had gone from shocked to ashen as he stared at his wife of 15 years. The casino receipts, Alyssa continued, her voice stronger now, show withdrawals of over $50,000 in the past 3 months alone. You went through my personal records? Linda's voice shook with rage. They weren't exactly hidden, Alyssa replied. You left them open on your laptop, multiple times. Craig squeezed my hand as I watched the scene unfold. His father Paul had moved closer to our table, his expression a mix of relief and vindication. I always knew something wasn't right about her, he muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. Linda's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal's. Edison, surely you don't believe these ridiculous accusations? My father slowly stood up, his hands trembling as he reached for his phone. Show me the proof, Alyssa. Daddy, don't, Linda started, but Alyssa was already pulling out her own phone. I took pictures, she said quietly. Of everything. The bank statements, the credit card bills, the IOUs from the Golden Palace Casino. The crowd of wedding guests had formed a loose circle around us, their earlier discomfort at my supposed financial troubles forgotten in light of this new drama. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant even, but watching my father's face as he scrolled through Alyssa's evidence just made my heart ache. 60,000 in March, he read aloud, his voice hollow, 85,000 in April, 120,000 in May. He looked up at Linda. Our anniversary weekend, when you said you were at a real estate convention. I can explain, Linda said quickly. The market's been difficult. I needed to cover some temporary losses. By gambling away our savings? My father's voice cracked. Krista appeared at my side with a glass of water. Drink this, she whispered. You're shaking. I hadn't even noticed, but she was right. My hands trembled as I lifted the glass to my lips. I was going to win it back, Linda insisted, her composure slipping further. I had a system, I just needed a little more time. Time? Alyssa interrupted. Like the time you spent trying to destroy Martina's reputation, making her doubt herself, all while you were stealing from our family? Linda spun toward her daughter. I was protecting this family. Everything I've done was for yourself, I found myself saying. The words came out clear and strong, surprising even me. It was always for yourself, Linda. The criticism, the manipulation, the constant undermining, it was all to keep everyone focused on our supposed failures instead of your own. You ungrateful little... Linda started toward me, but Craig stepped between us. That's enough, he said firmly. Security will escort you out if necessary. Linda's eyes widened as she realized how many people were watching. Her carefully curated image as the successful, sophisticated real estate mogul was crumbling in front of Phoenix's entire upper society. Edison. She tried one last time, reaching for my father's arm. He pulled away as if her touch burned. How much? He asked quietly. How much in total? Alyssa swallowed hard. From what I've found, just over $800,000. The gasps around the room were audible. My father sank back into his chair, looking suddenly old. I trusted you, he whispered, with everything. Daddy, please, Linda's voice had turned desperate. We can fix this. I'll get help. Security, Craig called, and 2 men in dark suits appeared almost instantly. As they approached, Linda straightened her spine, trying to salvage what dignity she had left. Fine. I'll leave. But remember, Martina, you did this. You destroyed this family. I stepped forward, finally free of the fear that had controlled me for so long. No, Linda. You did that all on your own. They led her away, her heels clicking against the floor in angry staccato. The moment she disappeared, Alyssa collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I should have said something sooner. I was scared of her too." I moved to her side, wrapping my arms around my stepsister. "You were incredibly brave tonight. But the wedding, I ruined everything." I looked around at the gathered guests, at Craig standing protective and proud beside me, at my father being comforted by his oldest friends, even at Paul, who now viewed me with respect instead of suspicion. "You didn't ruin anything," I told her. "You just helped us all see the truth." Krista raised her glass. "To the truth," she called out, and slowly, tentatively, other glasses rose to join hers. As the murmur of conversation gradually returned to the reception, I felt lighter somehow. The weight of Linda's judgment, her constant criticism, had lifted. But looking at my father's broken expression, I knew this was just the beginning of a much longer story. The microphone felt heavy in my hands as I stood up. The reception hall had descended into chaos. Clusters of guests whispering, phones discreetly recording, my father still staring blankly at Alyssa's evidence. "Everyone, please," I said into the mic. My voice echoed through the speakers, commanding attention. "I have something to say." Craig touched my arm. "Martina, you don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." I squeezed his hand before facing our guests. "For 15 years, I've lived under Linda's shadow, believing I wasn't good enough, that my business wasn't good enough, that I would never measure up to her standards." The room fell silent. Even the waiters stopped clearing plates. "She told everyone I was facing bankruptcy," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "And you know what? My business did struggle this year. We lost a major client. Our equipment needed expensive repairs. That's not failure. That's reality. That's business." Paul nodded slowly from his seat, his earlier suspicion replaced with something like respect. "But while I was fighting to keep my business alive, being honest with my creditors, making payment plans..." I held up my phone, displaying the proof Alyssa had sent me. Linda was losing hundreds of thousands at the Golden Palace Casino. The large screen behind me, meant for wedding photos, suddenly lit up. Alyssa had connected her laptop, projecting the evidence for everyone to see. "March 15th, I read from the statement. $25,000 withdrawn at 2 a.m. March 16th, another 30,000. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 65,000. "That was the day she told me my business plan was amateur," I added, looking directly at my father. "She said I didn't understand money management." Someone in the crowd let out a bitter laugh. "April 3rd, I continued, $40,000. April 4th, 50,000. April 5th, the day of my final wedding dress fitting, 70,000. She spent more at the blackjack table that night than my entire catering business makes in a month." "Oh my God," Krista whispered, staring at the numbers. "But here's the real kicker." I swiped to another document. "May 21st, Linda took out a third mortgage on our family home. Dad, she forged your signature." My father's head snapped up. "What?" "The bank called me yesterday," Alyssa said, her voice shaking. "They were trying to reach Mom about missed payments. They faxed over the paperwork." The projector displayed the mortgage document, my father's clearly forged signature stark against the white paper. "I've already contacted the police," I said, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "They'll be waiting to speak with her at home." The room erupted in gasps and exclamations. My father buried his face in his hands. "So yes, my business had a rough year," I announced. "Yes, I took out a loan to expand. And yes, I'm proud of every single struggle because I faced them honestly. I didn't steal. I didn't lie. I didn't destroy my family's trust." Craig stood beside me, his arm around my waist. "That's my wife," he said proudly into the mic, drawing scattered applause. "Linda spent years making me feel small," I continued, "making all of us feel small. She criticized my dreams while gambling away our futures. She questioned my integrity while committing fraud." I turned to my father, who looked years older than he had this morning. Dad, I'm so sorry, but you needed to know. He nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. I should have seen it. She fooled everyone, Alyssa said softly. She was really good at it. The sound of police sirens filtered in from outside. Several guests rushed to the windows, watching as 2 patrol cars pulled up to the venue. Mrs. Fowler? A police officer appeared in the doorway. We received a call about potential fraud charges. She left, I told them, but I can tell you exactly where she's going. The Golden Palace, Alyssa confirmed. It's where she always goes when she's upset. The officers nodded, speaking quietly into their radios before departing. The room felt electric with tension and unfolding drama. Well, Paul said, standing up and raising his glass. I think it's time for a proper toast. To Martina and Craig, who just gave us a wedding reception none of us will ever forget. Laughter rippled through the crowd as glasses were raised. And to honesty, Krista added, however ugly it might be. I looked around at the faces of our guests, no longer judging, no longer pitying, but understanding. Even those who had initially believed Linda's accusations about my business now wore expressions of sympathy and support. The truth really does set you free, I said quietly to Craig. He kissed my forehead. You were amazing. Scary, but amazing. Scary good or scary bad? Scary perfect, he smiled. Now, shall we salvage what's left of our wedding reception? I nodded, finally feeling like I could breathe freely. Yes. But first, I need to make sure Dad's okay. As I walked toward my father, I realized that while this wasn't the wedding day I'd planned, it was exactly the day I needed, the day we all needed, to finally break free from Linda's web of lies. The week after my wedding felt like walking through a minefield of consequences. I sat in my small office at the catering company, staring at my phone as it buzzed with another news alert. Local real estate mogul arrested for fraud and gambling with client funds. A knock on my door made me jump. Come in. Alyssa peeked in, looking exhausted. Dad's asking for you. He's at the house. How is he? I hadn't seen him since the wedding night, when he'd retreated into himself after the police took Linda away. Broken, she said simply. The bank called again. Linda wasn't just gambling with family money, she was using her real estate company's escrow accounts. My stomach dropped. How much? 2 million, maybe more. Alyssa collapsed into the chair across from my desk. The FBI is involved now. I grabbed my keys. Let's go. The drive to my childhood home felt surreal. Police tape still marked the entrance where they'd executed a search warrant 2 days ago. Inside, we found my father sitting in his study, surrounded by stacks of financial documents. The house is gone, he said without looking up. The cars, the vacation property in Sedona, my retirement fund, all gone. We'll figure it out, I said, kneeling beside his chair. He finally met my eyes. Craig's father called. They're pulling their investment from my company. What? But you had nothing to do with... Doesn't matter. The scandal's too big. Nobody wants to be associated with the name. He laughed bitterly. 30 years of building a reputation, destroyed in 1 week. Dad, was I really that blind? He interrupted. Did I just not want to see it? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Alyssa went to answer it, returning with Krista. Sorry to interrupt, she said, but you need to see this. She held up her tablet, showing a local news website. There was Linda's mugshot, alongside a headline, Disgraced Realtor's Stepdaughter Orchestrated Public Humiliation at Wedding. She's giving interviews from jail, Krista explained, saying you and Alyssa planned this to destroy her reputation because you were jealous of her success. That's ridiculous, Alyssa protested. It gets worse. Krista scrolled down. She's claiming you fabricated the evidence about her gambling to cover up your own financial misdeeds. I felt the room spin slightly. Who's believing this? Some of our biggest corporate clients are getting nervous, Krista admitted. 3 have already called to cancel their contracts. My father stood up suddenly. This is my fault. If I hadn't brought her into our lives. Stop, I said firmly. You're not responsible for her actions. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Craig, looking worried. My parents are asking us to move, he said without preamble. They think staying in Phoenix will hurt my law career. Because of Linda? I felt anger rising in my chest. He nodded. Dad's firm is worried about association. They're offering to transfer me to their Seattle office. You can't be serious. I told them no, Craig said quickly. But things are getting complicated. The media is camped outside our apartment. My clients are asking questions. I looked around at everyone. My father aged beyond his years, Alyssa fighting tears, Krista trying to be strong, Craig caught between loyalty and practicality. I won't let her win, I said suddenly. I won't let her turn us into victims. Martina, my father started, but I cut him off. No, Dad. She spent years making us doubt ourselves, making us feel small, and now she's trying to do it again, even from jail. I turned to Craig. I won't run away. This is our home. The business, Krista began. We'll survive, I finished. We'll be transparent with our clients, show them our books, prove we're nothing like her. Alyssa straightened up. I have all the evidence, everything. We can fight back. It won't be easy, Craig warned. The media loves a scandal. Then we'll give them a different story, I said. Not about Linda's betrayal, but about how a family stands together, how we rebuild. My father looked at me for a long moment. When did you get so strong? I learned from watching you, Dad, before Linda. When you built your company from nothing, when you taught me about integrity and hard work. I took his hand. We can do that again. The room fell quiet as everyone absorbed this. Finally, Krista spoke up. Well, I know where to start, she said, pulling out her phone. The Memorial Hospital contract. They're wavering, but they haven't canceled yet. Let's call them. Right now. Show them we're not hiding. Craig nodded. I'll talk to my firm. Make them understand that standing by us is better PR than running away. And I'll help Dad sort through the financial mess, Alyssa added. There might be assets Linda couldn't touch. Looking around at my family, both blood and chosen, I felt something shift. Linda had tried to destroy us, but somehow she'd only made us stronger. Okay, I said, picking up my phone. Let's get to work. And that's why you should trust us with your corporate events, I finished, standing before the board of directors at Phoenix Memorial Hospital. We've been transparent about our challenges, and we're stronger for facing them head-on. The hospital's CEO, Dr. Roberts, leaned forward. Your stepmother's scandal made headlines, Martina. Our shareholders are nervous. I understand, I said, pulling out my tablet. That's why I brought our complete financial records, client testimonials, and a detailed plan for your upcoming charity gala. The same gala Linda claimed you couldn't afford to cater? Another board member asked. Yes, and I'd like to show you exactly why she was wrong. For the next 20 minutes, I walked them through everything. Our books, our contingency plans, our staff credentials. When I finished, Dr. Roberts smiled. Well, I must say this is the most thorough presentation we've seen. Thank you, but no buts, she interrupted. We're keeping you on. In fact, we'd like to discuss expanding our contract to include the medical conference in September. I practically floated back to my kitchen, where Krista was supervising prep work for a wedding that weekend. They said yes, I announced, causing several staff members to cheer. Of course they did, Krista grinned. You're kind of scary when you're determined. Speaking of scary, a voice called from the doorway. You've got another visitor. Craig stood there with his father Paul, who looked distinctly uncomfortable. Paul, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. This is unexpected. Could we talk privately? I led him to my office, Craig following close behind. Paul paced for a moment before speaking. I was wrong, he said finally. About you, about everything. Dad's been doing some thinking, Craig added softly. I let Linda's accusations cloud my judgment, Paul continued. But watching you these past few weeks, how you've handled this situation, how you've protected your family while building your business back up. He cleared his throat. Well, I'm impressed. Thank you, I said carefully. But nothing. He pulled out a business card. My firm hosts monthly partner lunches. We've been using the same caterer for 10 years, but their service has gotten sloppy. I'd like to give you a shot at the contract. My hands shook slightly as I took the card. That's very generous. It's not generosity, it's business sense. You've proven yourself trustworthy under pressure. That's rare. After Paul left, Craig pulled me into a hug. See? Things are turning around. Slowly, I agreed. But what about your firm? Are they still pressuring you to transfer? Actually, he grinned, they're making me partner. Dad convinced them my family loyalty during the crisis showed good character. The kitchen door burst open and Alyssa rushed in. Martina, you need to see this. She thrust her phone at me. On the screen was an email from one of Linda's former real estate clients, a major hotel developer. They want to meet with us, Alyssa explained breathlessly. They're planning a chain of boutique hotels and need a catering service that can handle multiple locations. Us? I looked up, confused. Well, I might have shown them some of your work, and mentioned that I've been helping with the business side since everything happened. Alyssa, are you saying you want to work here? She nodded. I'm good with numbers. I caught Mom's scheme, didn't I? And you need someone to handle the business side while you focus on the culinary part. Plus, Craig added, having a former finance major managing the books will make clients feel extra secure. Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was my father. Dad, everything okay? Better than okay, he said, sounding more energetic than he had in weeks. Remember that small property I bought in Scottsdale years ago? The one Linda never knew about? The old restaurant space? What about it? I just had it appraised. It's worth 3 times what I paid for it. If you're interested, it could make a perfect second location for your catering business. I sat down hard in my office chair. Dad, I can't accept that. You're not accepting anything. I'm investing in my daughter's business, properly, legally, with real contracts and everything. He paused. Let me do this, Martina. Let me help you build something honest. Looking around my small office, at Craig's proud smile, at Alyssa's hopeful face, at Krista directing staff through the kitchen window, I felt tears well up. Okay, I said, but we do this right. Full partnership agreement, everything in writing. I wouldn't have it any other way, Dad replied, and I could hear him smiling. After hanging up, I turned to Alyssa. So, future business partner, ready to help me crunch some numbers for this hotel chain proposal? She beamed. Already started a spreadsheet. That's my wife, Craig laughed, always landing on her feet. No, I corrected him, pulling out my laptop. That's my family, all of us, landing on our feet together. The county jail's visiting room was colder than I expected. I sat at the metal table, watching Linda approach in her orange jumpsuit, her perfectly maintained appearance now stripped down to basics. No designer clothes, no expensive makeup, no carefully crafted facade. Well, she said, sitting down across from me, come to gloat? No. I placed my hands flat on the table. I came to return something. I pulled out her old business card, the one she'd given me years ago when I first started my catering company. She stared at it, her jaw tightening. You kept this? It was my motivation, I admitted. Every time I doubted myself, I'd look at it and think about proving you wrong. She laughed bitterly. And now you have. Congratulations. I hear your business is thriving. It is. We just signed the hotel chain contract. With my former clients, her eyes flashed. Alyssa told me, my own daughter, stealing my contacts. She didn't steal anything. They came to us because they trust us. Trust, Linda spat the word. Is that why you're here? To lecture me about trust? I leaned forward. I'm here because I need to understand. All those years of criticism, of making me feel worthless. Was it because you saw this coming? Did you know you were gambling everything away? Something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe, or regret. You don't understand addiction, she said quietly. You're right, I don't. But I understand lying. I understand manipulation. I understand making others feel small to make yourself feel big. Is that what you think I was doing? Wasn't you? She was silent for a long moment, staring at her hands. The first time I went to the casino, it was after your father praised your catering at that Christmas party. Everyone was raving about your food, your business sense, your potential. And that bothered you? It terrified me. Her voice cracked slightly. I'd spent so long being the successful one, the one with all the answers. But there you were, building something real, something honest. While I was... She trailed off. While you were losing everything at the blackjack table, I finished. The more I lost, the more I needed to prove I was still in control, still perfect. She looked up at me. And you were an easy target. Because I wanted your approval. Because you reminded me of who I used to be, before the gambling, before the lies. You had dreams, determination, everything I'd lost. A guard approached, signaling 5 minutes remaining. Dad's rebuilding his company, I told her. Smaller scale, but honest work. Alyssa's amazing with the business side of things, and Craig's family. They've come around. How nice for you all. Her voice turned cold again. One big happy family while I rot in here. You did this to yourself, Linda. Every criticism, every lie, every stolen dollar, those were your choices. And exposing me at your wedding? Was that your choice? Or did my darling daughter plan that all along? Alyssa protected you for months. She tried to get you help. You refused. Linda's hands clenched into fists. She betrayed me. You all betrayed me. No, I said firmly. You betrayed us, and now you're trying to blame everyone else because you can't face what you've done. Time's up, the guard called. I stood, gathering my purse. I didn't come here to gloat, Linda. I came to tell you that I forgive you. She looked up sharply. What? Not for my sake, but for mine. I'm done letting your opinion control my life. I'm done trying to prove myself to someone who never wanted to see my worth in the first place. How dare you? Goodbye, Linda. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. Dad's filing for divorce. The papers should arrive tomorrow. As I walked away, I heard her call after me. You think you're better than me? You think this makes you win? I didn't turn around. Through the heavy door, down the fluorescent-lit hallway, past the security checkpoint, I kept walking. Outside, Craig was waiting in the car. How did it go? He asked as I buckled in. Exactly as expected. I took a deep breath of free air. She's still trying to control the narrative. And you? I'm done with her narrative. It's time to write my own story. He smiled, starting the car. Speaking of stories, wait until you hear what happened at the kitchen today. Your dad stopped by with those investors from Dubai. As Craig filled me in on the latest business developments, I felt the last weight of Linda's influence lift from my shoulders. She would always be part of my history, but she no longer had the power to shape my future. My phone buzzed with a text from Alyssa. Just booked 2 more corporate events. Come celebrate with us. Take me to the kitchen, I told Craig. My family's waiting. He squeezed my hand as we drove away from the jail, leaving Linda and her manipulations behind. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting back. It's simply walking away and building something better. The grand opening banner fluttered in the warm Arizona breeze as I unlocked the doors to our new Scottsdale location. The renovated space gleamed with professional kitchen equipment, elegant dining areas, and a state-of-the-art demonstration kitchen for cooking classes. Ready? Alyssa asked, clipboard in hand. Almost. I adjusted a vase of fresh flowers on the welcome desk. Where's Dad? Parking the car. He's bringing the surprise. Before I could ask what surprise, Krista burst through the door. The hotel chain executives are on their way. Everything ready in the kitchen? Staff's prepped, menus set, and I triple-checked every detail, I assured her. That's my girl. My father appeared, carrying a familiar wooden box. But first, I think we need this. I recognized it immediately. Mom's old recipe box. Dad, you still have that? Found it while cleaning out the house. He set it on the counter. Thought it might belong here now. Craig arrived with his parents in tow. Paul looked around appreciatively. This is impressive, Martina. Very impressive. Thank you. I meant it sincerely. His approval, unlike Linda's, felt genuine and earned. The first guests are arriving, Alyssa called from the door. What followed was a whirlwind of introductions, presentations, and carefully crafted appetizers. I moved through the crowd, discussing menu options with hotel executives, demonstrating techniques in the show kitchen, watching Alyssa confidently handle the business discussions. During a quiet moment, I opened Mom's recipe box. Inside, beneath her handwritten cards, lay a newspaper clipping I'd never seen before. It was an article about her small catering business, dated just before she died. She was so proud of that article, Dad said, appearing beside me. She always said you'd inherit her cooking talent. Why didn't you show me this before? He sighed. Linda, she said it would only encourage unrealistic dreams. I should have stood up to her then. We can't change the past, Dad. No, but we can learn from it. He pulled out an envelope. Which is why I want you to have this. Inside was a deed, the building we were standing in, now officially in my name. Dad, we agreed this would be an investment. And it is. In you. In us. He gestured around the room. Look what you've built, Martina. Not just a business, but a family. A real one. Across the room, Craig was deep in conversation with his father about expanding our corporate client base. Alyssa was charming potential clients with her detailed business projections. Krista was leading a kitchen tour, her pride in our work evident in every word. Speaking of family, Dad continued, there's something else you should know. The DA called this morning. Linda took a plea deal. My hands stilled on Mom's recipe box. How long? 5 years, plus mandatory counseling and restitution payments. He touched my shoulder. Are you okay? Before I could answer, the hotel chain's CEO approached. Martina, this is extraordinary. We'd like to discuss expanding our contract to include all our West Coast properties. As I turned to respond, I caught a glimpse of myself in the polished steel of the kitchen wall, standing tall, confident, no longer seeking approval from shadows. I'd be happy to discuss that, I said. But first, let me show you something special. I pulled out Mom's recipe for her famous orange lavender macarons. This is where it all started. Would you like to see how they're made? For the next hour, I demonstrated the delicate process, sharing stories of Mom's wisdom, of lessons learned, of dreams rebuilt. The executives watched, entranced, as I transformed simple ingredients into something magical. You know, the CEO said, sampling a finished macaron, we've been looking for a signature dessert for our hotels, something unique, with a story behind it. Every great recipe has a story, I replied, thinking of Mom's box, of Dad's support, of the family we'd rebuilt from Linda's ashes. Later, as the successful event wound down, Craig found me in the kitchen. The hotel chain signed the expanded contract, he announced, and Paul's firm wants us to cater their National Partners Conference. We did it, I said softly. No, he corrected, wrapping his arms around me. You did it, by being exactly who you are. I looked around at our new space, at Mom's recipe box proudly displayed, at Alyssa calculating tomorrow's prep lists, at Dad beaming with genuine pride, at Krista directing cleanup with cheerful efficiency. Ready to lock up? Craig asked. Actually, I said, pulling out Mom's recipe box. I thought we might stay a bit longer. There's this chocolate souffle recipe I've been wanting to try. At this hour? I smiled, remembering Mom's words scribbled in the margins. The best recipes, like the best lives, are made with love, courage, and just a hint of rebellion. Why not? We've got time, family, and a kitchen full of possibilities. Craig grinned, reaching for an apron. Lead the way, chef. And in that moment, surrounded by the people I loved in the space we'd built together, I knew that this was the success Linda could never understand. This was home.